You're listening to the Icandemy podcast, the podcast for people who can but don't know how. This is where you get actionable steps to turn vague dreams into blissful realities. And I'm your host, Omoshola Victoria Wolabi. So let's get started. Are you on the verge of quitting your online business? Wait. Before you do that, hear this. If you have been struggling to attract clients, I totally understand how that must feel. I was also at the verge of quitting as well because I just felt everything I was doing was making no sense, attracting no clients, and I was so broke and such in a state of despair. But fortunately, I cracked the code. I got the code and I'm about to hand it to you for free. So if you've been struggling to attract clients into your business and you're just at the verge of giving it all up, try this first. Head on over to learn.icandemy.org, where I share with you how to make your first $10,000 online as a brand new coach, even if you have no social media following, yes, no huge email list, and no raving testimonials yet. Head on over to see how you can create a powerful system that works to attract clients and leads for you on demand. Head on over to learn.icandemy.org to get started. Merry Christmas! Welcome to the Christmas episode of the Icandemy podcast. Welcome. Super excited to be here once again. It's Christmas, officially 2022. We made it. We're here to celebrate Christmas. Now, I thought I'd better record this episode just to call to mind the real reason why we'll celebrate this festival or the season as Christmas. And I was in the car the other day driving with my daughter, and she just kind of said to me, "It doesn't really feel like Christmas, Mama. It doesn't feel like Christmas." And she was right. And I said to her, maybe it's because this year has been a very tough year. I mean, we've all been trying to just not die of COVID, right? We've all just been trying to survive. And I think it's just getting to that point where we're all just exhausted. We're not even in the mood for festivities. We're just grateful to be alive, right? But I thought I'd better record this episode because even though the year has been a tough one, we still have a lot to be thankful for. I do. I have a lot to be thankful for. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful that my mind is still intact. I'm thankful that the reason that we celebrate this season, that Jesus is still seated on the throne. And I wanted to record this for us to understand the real meaning of Christmas and not get carried away in all the traditions and the festivities. And while all of that is exciting, I just wanted us to also call to mind that there's a reason why we are celebrating this very season. I was at church this morning and the preacher actually made a beautiful connection about the story of Christmas. And I thought, oh, this is so good. I better share it with you guys, right? And what she was saying was, when we look at the Christmas tree and the tradition of the Christmas tree, it's actually a pagan tradition that the Romans adopted, right? And they would decorate these trees. And then this tradition flowed into Germany and then into England. And the tradition of decorating Christmas trees began. But decorating Christmas trees has nothing to do with Christ, who is the reason for the season. So basically, we are celebrating the birth of Christ. And why is that important? And I know there are some scholars who have said by the time if they go back and trace in time and in history, the birth of Christ did not actually happen in December, more October from what they found. However, December 25th is where the world has come together to say, okay, let us celebrate Christ on this particular day, because the Bible does not actually give us the date Christ was born. And I think that's a beautiful thing, right? It's such a beautiful thing. So it's not really about the date or us getting the date right. It is the reason why we are actually celebrating this in the first place. And Christ is the reason why we're celebrating this. And why is the birth of Christ significant? Why is it significant? I want us to keep in mind as we go through the season, the main reason why we should be joyful, we should be happy, regardless of how rough the year has been, we should find that place of joy and excitement that Jesus is worth celebrating. Because in the beginning, we remember in Genesis 3, when, man fell, Eve ate the forbidden fruit, right? And she was deceived by the enemy. There we see God laying out the consequences of their actions, basically. And the Lord said, because you have done this, it started with the serpent who gave his body to be used for that particular reason, right? And then he addressed the spirit in the serpent, right, which was Satan, the devil at the time. And he said, I will put enmity, open hostility between you and the woman, and between her seed and your seed. And he shall fatally bruise your head, and you shall only bruise his heel. This is from Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. And we see the Lord, our Father God, laying out the consequences of their action, right? And Jesus is that seed, because what the enemy did in this whole episode going on in Genesis 3 was that he introduced sin into a sinless world. So he introduced sin. He knew God was so holy, there was something that could separate us from God. And he introduced sin, which was a means to separate us from God. But, I've always thought to myself that, okay, did all of this catch God unawares? And like I shared in a few episodes ago, you should go back and listen to that one where I said the mystery of the bait. We are a bait. That was why the Lord said, the very woman you deceived, who you thought was going to be the entrance of sin, is also going to birth something that would be your destruction. And that is why we are a bait. Okay, family, let's face it. We've all felt pain. We've suffered the losses. You know what it's like to want something so bad, but not see a path to its accomplishment. The question, however, is, do you know how to pick yourself up and move on despite what has happened? This is what I share with you inside of my new book, Good Medicine for the Crushed Spirit, a practical guide to helping you find purpose when adversity strikes. Inside this book, you will find personal stories, relatable biblical tales, and anecdotes that prove you are never alone in your despair and will inspire you to turn pain, discomfort, disappointment, or setbacks into something positive that works for you. So if you're ready to change your life in meaningful and purposeful ways, get your copy of this book today and let the transformation begin. So obviously, Satan didn't see this coming. He wouldn't have engaged in what he did if he saw this dimension of the Lord coming. That is why we say we have a God, the manifold wisdom of God, right? So in this particular scenario, this episode, this chapter, right, we see the Lord using the same woman that the enemy thought he was going to play on her ignorance and introduce sin into the world. And the Lord said, no, don't worry about it. There's a seed coming that's going to crush your head. And then fast forward, we go to the book of Matthew chapter 1, and we see Matthew giving us a family tree. So the first tree here is in Genesis, eating from the forbidden tree, right? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right? And making Eve believe she was not enough and introducing seed into the world. So that's the first tree that we see there. And then fast forward to Matthew chapter 1, we see the tree, the family tree of Jesus. And boy, that is one interesting family tree. If you look at it, there's all sorts of people going on in that tree to lead us up to the point where Jesus is born. And Jesus is that seed that the Lord talked about in Genesis chapter 3. So the birth of Jesus signifies the restoration. It signifies God redeeming us out of that state of sin that we were deceived into by Satan, right? So the birth of Jesus is an exciting thing to be celebrated because it's an assurance that it will not always be this way. It's an assurance that in every sad story, there is happiness lurking in there. There's a silver lining if we look for it. And it's an assurance that God always keeps his word. He always keeps his word, right? And then if we look, the birth of Jesus just brings hope, brings joy. It shows us selflessness, that Jesus was willing to take on the burden of sin of the whole world so that we could be made right, justified, sanctified, and made right again to the Father. So Christmas is a beautiful thing to celebrate because it just reminds us that God is a keeper of his word. He said it in Genesis that a seed was going to come that was going to crush the head of the serpent, right? Of Satan, rather, not the serpent, basically. And it happened. It happened. So what are you believing God for in this season that you're kind of feeling like, okay, I'm not sure this may happen in my lifetime? I want you to find hope in the story of Christmas, that God always keeps his word. The fact that Jesus was born was God keeping his word to us. And obviously we know the last tree was a tree that Jesus hung from the cross, right, when he was crucified, which again looks like darkness, but there was actually light being born. Okay. Now that we're in this season of Christmas, I want you to lay aside the guilt, the shame, and I want you to go read Matthew 1. You will see in there that there are lots of questionable characters in that family tree that God still thought was worthy enough to be in the genealogy of Jesus the Messiah. So I don't know what you may have been going through, what may have happened in your life, how life may have played you dirty. I want you to find hope in this season of Christmas, looking at the family tree of Jesus that led us to this point where we have something to celebrate, that not everybody in that tree was clean, so to speak, right? There were some questionable characters in that tree, but God knows how to flip everything around for good. I just want to encourage you in this season to be merry, be cheerful, but also never forget the reason for the season, because that is the main reason why we're all celebrating, even regardless of what may be going on in the world, that we are alive to witness this day, that we are here, that we still have another chance to get it right. Because Jesus was born like God promised, nothing he has promised you will ever fall to the ground. So on behalf of myself and my family, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas. I pray the Lord's blessings upon you and your family. I pray healing upon you and your family. I pray restoration. Whatever the enemy thought was stolen from you, the Lord will restore it 100,000-fold. Okay? And I want you to always find hope, find rest, that Jesus, the reason for the season, is still seated on the throne. For the Bible tells us that we do not serve a high priest who cannot be touched by the feeling of our infirmity. He feels what we feel because he was here. He walked on this earth like you and I are doing now. So he understands the pain, the shame, the guilt, the suffering, all of these things. He understands all of these things, so he can relate. Okay? And that is why he's sitting on the right hand of the Father, constantly interceding on our behalf. Constantly interceding on our behalf. I can't even believe I am here. Or mashallah, with the way my life looks like it was going to end. So the fact that I'm here and I'm talking to you is testimony that your life will not end the way it looks like. So I want you to be encouraged. I want you to celebrate this season with joy, with laughter. Share your heart, share your time, share gifts, but know that we are doing it from a place of love and assurance that God always keeps his word. So once again, I wish you a very Merry Christmas. And until the next episode, keep on shining. This episode is sponsored by our very own Mogul Mindset Training. Are you ready to embrace new experiences, see opportunities where you thought there was none, and totally surprise yourself? Because you can, by unleashing the power of your mind. Mogul Mindset System is a 5-step system that helps you retrain your mind to work with you and not against you, so you can awaken your inner giant, 10x your impact, your income, and become truly unstoppable. The truth is, you, my friend, have a superpower, your creative genius. And I'm here to make that power multiply manyfold so you can get past fear, self-doubt, and finally start working and thriving in your life and business. Ready to unleash your superpowers? I thought you would. Head over to mogul.icandemy.org. That's mogul.icandemy.org to learn more. So there you have it. Thank you so much for listening. And for more content like this, follow us on our social media handles. On Facebook, it's at Icandemy, the Facebook page. On Instagram, it's at Icandemy. Or come say hello over on my personal page. On Instagram, it's at Omoshola Speaks. On Facebook, it's Victoria Wolabi. Feel free to reach out, introduce yourself, say hello. I love meeting you. And if you have any stories that you feel will inspire another woman to action, I want to hear from you. I really do. I love hearing from you. Send me an email to hello@icandemy.org. So it's hello@icandemy.org. academy.org.